The only thing that counts as utilities are electricity, natural gas, heating oil, and water. Okay, you probably won't run into heating oil much in the way of, unless you live in a really old, maybe like New England home or something. In Florida, it really doesn't happen. Some old gases have, or some old houses have natural gas still, but all the newer homes have gotten away from it. Most people will have to deal with electricity and water. Those are utilities. A lot of times, especially in apartments, so for rentals, you may not have to pay for water. So sometimes you don't have to actually pay for water, it's included in your rent. And then depending on where you live, for example, if you live in, like, say, Sanford, you get water, sewer, and trash in one bill.
That means you have to incorporate all the taxes and all the utilities
into the one bill. So sewer and trash are then considered part of the utilities at that point. Trash pickup on its own is not a utility, but if it's incorporated with a utility bill, then it would be. So you'll notice that phone's not on here, internet's not on here, TV's not on here, because those are considered to be luxuries, and utilities are considered to be necessities. You need electricity, you need water, right? You need gas if that's the way you're going to heat your house. You pay for them after you use them, so that's why a lot of times they'll ask for a deposit up front, and the deposit is usually 2 months bill, or maybe 1.5 months bill, but they ask for the deposit up front, and you get that back at the end, and that's because they charge you for how much you use, so they can't pre-charge you. Like when you're talking about, like, let's say you're talking about DirecTV bill. When I pay the DirecTV bill now in December, I'm actually paying for January. But when I pay for my electric bill now in December, I'm actually paying for November, because I'm paying for what I actually used. They have meters that run these. Okay, so the meter is either a box on the side of the house, like a glass window, or sometimes in the front yard there'll be like a grate thing with a door you can open up and you look and there's a glass window in there. And there are some of the older meters have dials and the new ones are digital. So they come to your home and they read the meter. Electricity is measured in watts, and it's measured in watt hours. So 60-watt light bulb burns 60 watts an hour. A kilowatt hour is 1,000 watt hours. So when they charge you your bill, they're charging you by the kilowatt hour because watts are very small. Because you think about it, if you run a light bulb for 24 hours straight, well, I'm going to do it this way. That's just from the one light bulb. And then, of course, you've got more than one light bulb in your house. You've got a stove, and you've got a refrigerator, and you've got... That's watts.
Okay,
that's 1.44 kilowatts.
That's a lot for one bulb. And how much is it per kilowatt? How much do they usually sell for electricity?
We can look that up real quick. So electricity is sold by the kilowatt hour. Natural gas is sold by the cubic foot because it's sold by volume. And water is also sold by the cubic foot or the gallon. Depends on your water company. Sometimes they'll say gallon, sometimes they'll say cubic foot. Actually, all right, so a cubic foot is about 7.5 gallons. Got
it. You're pretty off. That's like a lot more.
And then the CCF is 100 cubic feet. Okay. So you're charged electricity by kilowatt hours and water and gas by volume that you use. And again, this is not, if you think about how much water you use in a month, I bet most of you don't have any idea how much water you use in a month. I use in my house with 3 people about 18,000 gallons a month.
Oh, God.
That's for everything though. That's for like the lawn, and that's for every time you brush your teeth, wash your hair, like take a shower, do laundry. I mean, it goes fast. So the way they do this is that they are constantly metering, and so they take a specific day, and it doesn't reset to 0. It just changes. So let's say if they read it on the 1st of the month, December 1st, they take the reading, and it's however many gallons. Like let's say on December 1st it was, let's just make it easy, 5,000 gallons. Then when they come back on January 1st, it's say 21,000 gallons. Then they say, okay, well during that month you used 16,000 gallons, because they take the difference between the 2 readings. Make sense? They just subtract. So if we're talking about Tom's October water bill, the previous reading is 3,128 CCF, and then the new one is 3,141 CCF. We're going to take the new reading and subtract the old reading from it. So he used 13 CCFs, which, if you call a CCF is 100 cubic feet, so it's actually 1,300 cubic feet. Or to make it easier, we could say feet cubed. Okay, but the old meters were dials, and what you did is you start at the back and move your way forward, because these might still be zeros. If like you haven't, these are digits. These represent digits. So this is the ones, the tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this one is between 1 and 2, so
It's a little closer to 2.
it's a little closer to 2. So, but we round down because it's the ones. So we're going to round that down to 1. Between 4 and 5, we round down to 5.
6,
5 and 6, so that's 5. We're always going to round down on these.
What?
Well, because we're reading, huh?
The 2 you just looked at, look out
Yeah, they do
there.
that.
The numbers are reversed.
They do that. It's got to do with the way the water flows.
Okay.
Every time this hits 0, this goes up 1. Every time this hits 0, this goes up 1. Every time this hits 0, so it's the way the water is flowing through for it to read the water that makes the dials turn properly. Between 9 and 0, this one you read as 9, because it's going from 9 to 0, not the other way around. So it's still rounding down. And then between 0 and 1, I'm going to read that one as 0 because it's rounding down. So you've got to see which way the direction is going. They're all opposite. See that? And you round down. So if we're reading this, that's 9,551, and that is electricity, so it's kilowatts. Okay. So again, here we're between 9 and 0, so that's going to be a 9. We're coming between 5 and 6, between 3 and 4, and between 3 and 4. Sorry, it should be capital W. An electric mixer uses 125 watts, and we want to use it for 90 minutes at a cost of $10 cents per kilowatt hour. Okay, so first of all, 90 minutes is 1.5 hours, right? Okay, because we're doing kilowatt hours. So I'm going to do 125 watts times 1.5 hours. So I've got 187.5 watt hours. And then I want to turn that into kilowatt hours. So I'm going to take that 187.5 watt hours and I'm going to divide it by 1,000. And that becomes a kilowatt hour. And then I'm going to take that kilowatt hours and I'm going to multiply it by 10 cents. That 8 is awful. So it's going to cost me $1.88 to use that mixer for an hour and a half. 10. Yes, you're right. I multiplied by 10, not 0.10. It's actually 0.01875, which is, what is that? 9 cents. No. Yeah. 0.19. So it's like almost 2 cents. There it is. I multiplied by 10 instead of 0.10. So I went my decimal the wrong way. So it's almost 2 cents. Everybody got that one? Okay, this is what I was talking about earlier with budget billing. Okay, the way they work out budget billing is they take the average cost of electricity and then they break it out over a year. So if you are looking at, like they look at last year, this person spent $3,336. So they take that amount and they divide it by 12. And they're going to charge you $278 a month. Now, here's where it can, budget billing is nice because it tells you exactly what your bill is going to be for the whole year. You know, like you know for a fact your bill is going to be $278 a month for that whole year, except at the end. The last month might be different, and here's why. Because if this year my electricity was more than $3,336, at the end they're going to charge me the difference. So, or they could, depending on the company, add that to like the next budget's billings and raise all of the budget billings for the whole year by $10 or something.
So for that would it be like 11 months and then like the last one would be 11?
Could be different, yeah, it could be. So that just depends on your electricity usage though. So if like the following year, they base this year's budget billing on last year's usage. So if you, when you start, that's how they start the price. So if last year you used the $3,336 for the whole year in electricity, this year they're going to charge you $278 a month. And if you stay the same, then you break out evenly. If you are a little bit less, then they lower that $278 the following year. If you are more, depending on the company, they'll either raise the $278 to cover the difference for the whole year, or depending on the company, they might just that last part, that last month, charge you the difference. So if let's say instead of using $3,336, you use $3,400, they might charge you that extra $64 on the next bill or on the last bill. It just depends on the company and how they work it. Some companies just raise it for the next year and some just charge you the whole chunk. Yeah.
I do have a question. All right.
Energy savings. The energy efficient appliances, energy efficient light bulbs, they cost more. You guys have seen that, right? Eventually, though, they pay for themselves, most of them. So if you have a water heater that costs you $455 a year to run, but the new one will save you 31% annually in energy, it'll pay for itself in your energy savings. So first you want to figure out how much is it saving you per year. So it's going to save you $141 a year just on your electric bill. Which, you know, that's just over $10 a month. But again, these things add up, right? $10 a month is $10 a month that you could be using for something else or putting in a savings account and getting interest on it, right? Instead of giving it to the electric company. Okay, so you're saving $141 a year. We're just going to round this to, you know, the 5 cents is not going to make that much of a difference. And I'm going to take the cost of the heater and divide it by that $141 that I'm saving. So it's going to take 8 years, almost 9 years, for this water heater to pay for itself in your energy savings. And what you want to do if you're making that decision is look at the life expectancy of the water heater. It's going to be longer than 9 years. Most of them are quite long, 20, 30-year water heaters. But let's just say this is weird, some weird brand of water heater made on some tiny island nobody's ever heard of in the North Pacific or something. And it's got a 5-year life expectancy. Then it wouldn't be worth buying it, right? So that's the kind of things that you want to look at. Yes, it's going to save you money every year, but is it going to last long enough that it pays for itself? Okay. Well, according to the book, if we go back to 1969, a lot less than they cost now. To think about, though, what we have now versus what we had then, we have a lot more devices. However, back in the 1960s, a 12-inch, maybe 14-inch TV was about the norm. If it was picture tube TV, you used a lot of electricity. And now you have like a 60-inch plasma HD whatever. That probably uses about the same amount of electricity. Close. I don't know the exact, but you know, we've got more appliances and more electronics, but they are more efficient. So, you know, I'm not really sure exactly how the balancing out would go, but think about the things that are at your house right now that you're not using, but they're in some sort of weirdo standby mode, so they're still drawing electricity. Your cable box or DirecTV is for sure. Clocks, any clocks that you have plugged in are using electricity even though you're not currently looking at the time. DVD players, DVRs, CD, stereos. Your TV has a little red light on the bottom to tell you that it's not on. That's using electricity. You know?
Red LED light is the least, like, that takes more electricity to use certain light colors.
Yeah.
For LED, and red's the cheapest.
Right, but still, do you really need a TV light to tell you your TV is not on?
Yeah.
The fact that the screen is black tells me that my TV is not on. I don't need to look at the red light, right? But still, these are things that are drawing electricity 24/7, whether you're using them or not.
Unless you're one of those people that plugs in.
Right. So, you know,
Leaks out of the walls.
these are things to think about that we talk about that are, you know, electricity users, electricity hogs or whatever. We have a lot of electronic things and we take them for granted now. But what you want to consider, this is stuff you good considering in your budget. That's why this list is good, but you guys have it right here. Do you have internet? How much time do you spend on the internet? How fast do you need your internet to be? This all affects the price, right? Because like a 1.5 megabyte internet is not going to be as expensive as a 30. I don't think they make it 30. I think you can get like a 10 or 15 now, right? I think that might be the max. But, you know, if the price changes, well, you get a T1 line if you own a business. That's different. Okay. How many text messages? Do you have unlimited texting or do you have like a capped plan? And how much does it cost? Do you know the provisions of your cell phone contract if it's not unlimited? Do you know how much each individual thing is costing you if you go over it? Do you watch TV? Is it cable? Is it satellite? Do you pay for Netflix instead? You know, what about the different plans? What is your optimal plan? These are things to check on for your budget. Okay. All right. So this one I thought was kind of funny. Payphones. When's the last time has anybody seen a payphone anytime recently? Yeah, where?
There's one downstairs, close to the break room down hall.
Really? We have a payphone? Oh! Okay, aside from here then. This building's really old, so there's bus stop? Okay. So at this phone was 35 cents for 3 minutes and 19 cents for each extra minute. And you get charged an entire minute regardless. That's how cell phones used to work, by the way. If you talked for 10 seconds, you were charged for a full minute. So how much is a 7.5 minute phone call? Well, you've got 35 cents for 3 minutes. So you get 4.5 minutes left, which is the same thing as 5 minutes because they charge you for that half minute as if it was a full minute. And they're 19 cents each. Whoops. I don't even know what I did there. So 95 cents plus the 35 initially. So that 7.5 minute call on a payphone would cost you $1.30. We have different call plans, basic charge, which includes a certain number of free minutes, and then you have a charge for each additional minute. Here is the cell plan. We're going to interpret this. Okay. The basic plan is $40 and it's up to 750 minutes. Okay. If you look at this is taking care of the fractions versus the the full minutes, not full minutes. X being the minutes. It is $40 plus 35 cents a minute for any minute over 750. Okay, so that's how you would read that. That's how this plan would work. So you plug in X, and then the reason this is the plus one is because they're charging you for all the partial minutes as if they are a full minute. Okay, so $40 plus 35 cents a minute for any minutes over 750. Questions on that at all? We've interpreted it to know that it's 35 cents a minute for any minutes over 750. So if we come over here and we have 1,234 minutes, we can subtract 750 from that. And that's 484 minutes that we're going to have to pay for on top of our plan. And they're 35 cents each. So it's $169.40 plus our initial $40 for the basic charge. So when we were expecting to pay $40 because we went over our minutes by a whole heck of a lot, we're now going to pay $209. Back in the day, they also used to charge you for text messages. I used to pay 10 cents a minute for or 10 cents a text for text messages originally, and then there was a plan where you had like 100 texts for so much money, and then it was 10 cents a text after. Anyway, now it's all unlimited. But back in the day, it was like $40 for unlimited texts or 15 cents per text, and you had to decide, were you going to make $40 worth of text or not? Is that worth it? Because, you know, back in the day, you maybe didn't send as many text messages as you do now because people didn't have cell phones. So she sends about 800 a month at 15 cents each. So did I do the decimal correctly? Yeah, I did. So that's $120 if she pays per. So how much is she going to save? If she switches to the unlimited plan, she'll save $80. We've got 45 minutes for unlimited texting, 12 cents per 12 cents per text sent or received. We want to know what's the break-even point to know which plan would be better. So if you just divide $45 by 12 cents, that tells you how many texts $45 cost you. So 375 texts. So if you're going to send more than 375 texts in a month, it's going to make sense to pay for the unlimited at that point, right? How many of you guys probably send like 375 texts a day?
That's a big.
Yeah.
I wouldn't count.
Bundles will save you money sometimes. They always talk about bundling, right? If you do $95 for this type of company, it gets you your phone, your internet, and your cable, right? So, and then it will increase 10% for the second year, because they always do that. It's like they grab you, they give you a nice good price, and then they raise it. You guys experienced that at all? Have your parents ever complained about it? Because I complain about it all the time. About how like you sign up for the good deal, like Bright House networks will have like a really good deal, right? And you'll sign up, but then it's only for the first 6 months, and then after that it jumps a bunch. You know, yeah. So the $95 is going to go up 10%. So we're going to find out what that 10% is, which is $9.50. So the $95 is actually going to turn into $104.50. Of course, and this is before all the service charges and fees and taxes and everything else. Now, she pays $49 normally for phone, $35 for internet, and $50 for cable. We want to know which is the better deal. So she normally pays $134, so this is still a better deal, and she's gonna save $29.50 per month, which if you figure that out, in a year, you're going to save $354. Okay. It may not seem like a lot sometimes, but if you save $10 a year, you're saving, or $10 a month, you're saving $120 a year. Just on like a bill. If you can cut a bill down by $10, you're saving $120 a year.